and welcome to this year's House Poetry Slam, which is always a highlight of our school's calendar. I'm here as usual in the Lee Library, but unfortunately because of our social distancing requirements we're having to do things slightly differently this year. So I'm really grateful to all 10 of our competitive houses for their creativity and ingenuity in writing, recording and performing 10 original poems all on the theme of vision. We're going to enjoy each of those performances, and after we've seen those, I'm going to be handing over to our special guest adjudicator. So for now, please sit back and enjoy 10 wonderful new poems, all on the theme of vision.
Nightmarish Dreams by Ellie Hinnells. We slip beneath the pillow's spell. A timeless journey fills our being. It lasts eternity, yet one quick second, as we reflect on dormant fears. We dream of pain, fears, memories, an untold thought which nightly strays, unless the monsters come again to rouse us from our visions. We see anything and all, past heartbreak, past sins, a reddish face beaming down, broken memories forgotten and found. The blind man now becomes all-seeing, with devilish sleep as his master, who is now free to gorge on everything he holds dear, so his eyes awake with tears. These nightmarish dreams, a few we remember, most we forget, thanks to the angel sleeping on our shoulder who wakes us when the devil is near.
House Charwell. This is Visions of Space. Empty but full. A place full of darkness but far too bright. Soon it will be full. The hustle and bustle will be overwhelming. Because when it all comes down to it, Earth won't last forever. The pressure on the young people of the world is backbreaking. Because even though it isn't our fault, we have to pay. When you look closer, it isn't quite empty. Pieces of rubbish float around, and greenhouse gases emit from the planet below you. And there is a foreign object orbiting Earth. You can see the fight if you're looking for it. What we have now won't last. The cosmos is drawing. It isn't too far. But as we see it, we see an ambiguous realm. But jeopardy rooms. Is it too late?
Vision by Cecily Richards. I saw the end of September as the leaves fell to my feet. The dancing sun has now danced away, and the choir of birds that perch outside my window have stopped singing. I feel the beginning of winter as the mornings grow crisper and colder, as the days grow shorter and the nights longer, as the air feels sharper than fuzzy August once was. I can smell the new scent of roasted apples, cinnamon and berry crumble that brings a warmth and excitement to my cold exterior. The scent of the fresh stew in the morning, although it makes my toes soggy, forces my hair to stand on edge and my blood to rush. I am hearing the crackling of fires, pattering of rain and gust of wind, the gentle sound of a jar being popped open or the crunch of leaves beneath my feet brings me the greatest vision of a restful autumn day.
My vision is escaping me. Every day I wake up and search for some hope, but none is to be found. The leaves flake in the harsh cold wind. The sky is painted scarlet against the merciless sun. The soot is like a veil shielding us from what has become of the outside world, keeping it from us and us from it. The ground is left raw. Where flower meadows used to bloom are mounds of ash. We are no longer truly living. This is a place where life and death are not so different. We have lost so much, but we have taken too much as well. Plastic grows like weeds. Where there used to be innocent creatures of the earth, there are now bones creating towers of darkness, serving as a reminder of our actions. Corpses scatter across the land, ashen with the remains of once majestic oak trees. All that is to be seen of the bodies is a meshwork of threads. Nobody remembers who they are, just that they were once someone. We'll all end up like that one day. They say this is hell, but hell would be mercy compared to what we are now living. All we know for certain is that this nightmare may never end.
One day we'll look back and say, why didn't we do more? Was the bin really too far away?
Could I have walked instead of driven?
Because if
we all
just did
a little more,
maybe our vision would become the reality we've been hoping for.
Moments by Katerina de Jong. There are split seconds between the proper seconds that feel different, stolen somehow. I float in the water, learning by heart the sight of nearly ripe apples. They contrast so nicely with the cloudless sky, encircled by a halo of leaf-filtered sunlight. The evening sunset for a few minutes makes everything shine preciously. Time ticks tediously and relentlessly. Molten gold. Never tasted so sweet. Fruit that stings my broken lips. Or I press my fingers to the frozen ice of a window pane. Mysterious fog encircles them, like whispered breaths that certainly aren't my own. Night air tastes different to me. I open my hand to catch starlight. It feels like frosted flowers. If I close my hand too tightly, it'll be crushed, ruined. So I try to hold on to it as it passes me by, before it's gone. Stolen moments have a sweetness no others hold, because they're that. Stolen, golden, tiny. And how strange that in the lens of memory, stolen, golden, tiny moments, they can fill a lifetime.
New year, new me, like every year, but this wasn't. A surge of hope turned into fragments of despair. Eager flames lit up bountiful forests, hundreds of millions gone. A wave of illness sending the world into carnage. Sinking through the air, the lives of two, gone in a second. The drone of a news reporter's voice, alerting us every day. Dusky corpses fall, countries at war, a devastating crash. The increasing spread, drowning in a sea of confused cries. The faith we held for this year is pitiful. What happened to the expectations? We were blinded by the tragedy. Where did our vision go? New year, new me, like every year, but maybe the next.
I wanted to write something on the theme of vision that wasn't necessarily linked to your eyes, and something about how you can see things without your eyes and how you can form a picture of things using your other senses, and how vision isn't just necessarily your eyes. And I chose the place because it had some distinct noises and different smells, and it's about where my grandparents live. Blindfolded and yet I see, with my ears, my tongue, my nose, a whispered picture of salt-touched air blossoming behind my eyelids. Echoes of children laughing and playing, murmured in the crash of the waves. Panting of wet dogs and paws on wet sand, lingering in my ears. The whir of bicycles behind me on the marina, the gentlest laughter of wind through petals. The distinction of footsteps on each different paving stone, mumbling and swirling into a musical canvas. Sea salt tickling my tongue as the tide comes closer, mingled with the blurred taste of faint smoke. Carrying the hint of cucumber that fresh air always tastes like, as my taste buds fill in the gap in my painting. My nose works in tandem with my taste buds, adding the details from further away. The smell of wet dogs, the faintest aroma of barbecue, combined with an aroma of childhood memories. My picture is complete now and needs no improvement, no colour or outlines required. Just the sounds, tastes and smells of a favourite place. I don't need my eyes to see it.
A subtle sight grazes my mind. The haze covers the night sky, yet in the distance the sun is rising. Clear and bold, I run towards the light which recalls memories of home, of warmth. This is my vision, this is my curse, this is the thorn of my rose. This is my vision, this is my gift. This is the sweet scent of my rose. I close my eyes. In front of me are two paths. Who am I to choose my own path? I'm running blindly, I'm running with my hands tied. You're the one running next to me. You can choose where you want to go. You can run. You can walk. Run with us. We choose our paths. We're given a blind start, yet we help each other. Vision, vision, vision. I whisper to myself, hoping for a path to appear before me. I want to run and run and run. As the sun sets, I walk and walk. I breathe in, I breathe out, one step at a time. It's fine walking without a dream. I dream, you dream, we dream. I don't dream, you don't dream, we don't dream. I don't have a dream, you don't have a dream, we don't have a dream. What's the point of walking endlessly without turning our heads? This vision, this single thing we so yearn for, floods and eventually poisons our heads. We live, we experience, we die. Vision, vision, vision.
Hope is a magic word, one quite the opposite of absurd. It often sits deep in a person's heart, waiting there, but never gone. Hope is the one that feeds the nation. People often find it in desperation. After a few days, some people find themselves in a maze. Just because hope has not acted yet, it never forgets its debt. So don't give up, there is still time, otherwise I wouldn't have written this rhyme. A vaccine will be found, they are bound to heal this enormous wound. Perhaps soon, perhaps late, I cannot give a precise date. But I ask you to find the light, before turning to a world of black and white. So keep that hope inside your soul, that is your ultimate goal. Please don't worry, no panic is needed, for one day you will have that look of glee. From the virus we will be free, when the vaccine becomes a reality.
I had a vision, in the middle of maths, of the world and life, or something like that.
In the corner, there was a moss-covered nest. In the corner, near where I did my maths test.
Then spring's term had started. In school, bushes bloomed. I saw a new life start in that very room.
They were tiny at first, small eggs speckled pink. Then one started to crack, and out popped a wing.
Within that lesson, where an empty nest once stood,
4 tiny mouths seemed to be screaming for food.
Then it took a while.
But slowly, slowly, slowly they grew.
Now in maths,
I look out for 3 swooping, graceful souls.
with no boundaries in life, their peaceful minds working almost as one.
Thank you so much for those wonderful performances. I'm so glad I didn't have to make the decision about which was the best. Instead, it's a huge pleasure to hand over to our special guest adjudicator, the theatre maker and performance poet Tina Sederholm. Tina has written over 6 books. She's toured extensively with her one-woman shows, which have been critically acclaimed by different reviewers, and she's won over 20 poetry slams, so she really knows what she's talking about. Most excitingly of all, she is herself a Headingtonian, so perhaps some of you might follow in her footsteps one of these days. So I'm going to hand over to Tina, who's first of all going to share one of her own poems, and then we'll be offering her adjudication on these wonderful poems. Thank you very much.
Hello, Headingtonians. My name is Tina Sederholm, and I'm a performance poet. And I was absolutely delighted to be asked to judge your 2020 Headington Poetry Slam. Now, of course, these aren't normal times, so this hasn't been a normal slam. Usual slam rules would mean No props, no music, just the performer in front of the mic, giving it their all and entrancing the audience. But as I said, not normal time, so normal rules out the window. And I was really excited to see the different approaches that some of you used, slides and music and different settings, and others of you just went for the simplicity of standing in front of the camera or sitting in front of the camera and performing your poem really from your heart. So I love that we had that range of approaches, and when I go through my comments on each piece, I'll probably just flag up some of the things you can think of for when you write new pieces, and you know, how you can extend and develop what you're doing and writing. So I've also been asked if I will start with a poem, which I also on the subject of vision, which of course was a really an interesting choice for National Poetry Day, because it's really the essence of poetry is observing life, observing situations you may or may not understand, and trying to make sense of them through a poem. I did not write a poem for National Poetry Day because I had to hand in a manuscript that day, and I thought, you know what, that's about 6 months work. It's all being polished and sent off that day. I'm going to cut myself some slack and not write another poem. But this is one from a show I did a few years ago called The Good Delusion, and I wrote it after I was at a festival performing, and in between sort of sets that I was doing, there was a set of drummers, djembe players, doing a fantastic performance. There are about 100 of them. And I spotted this one woman in the front row who was really over enthusiastic. I mean, she loved it because they weren't just drumming, they were dancing as well. But she was very slightly out of time with everyone else. But she didn't let that stop her. And I thought, yeah, that's me, isn't it? I can always spot myself in a crowd. I'm the one tripping over as I grapevine in the wrong direction, whose dress gets caught in her knickers, who laughs in the awkward pause after a comedian tells a joke that isn't. I'm the line in a poem that aches to be luminous, but is the illegitimate offspring of self-help books and call centre scripts. The one who can only shimmy to the right, whose hair escapes in clumps, scribbles its presence all over bathrooms. I could never steal from you. I'd only forget and give it back as a birthday gift. I am the antithesis of Hello magazine. The cupboard under the stairs where you stuff everything you plan to deal with later. But I'm getting better. I'm almost there. Honest. Thank you very much. I'm imagining you in rapturous applause or applause. That's also a possibility. It's very strange, isn't it? Performing to a camera. I love performing on stage because I like to feel the energy of the audience, and now when we're on these little screens, you have to sort of, as a performer, you just have to sort of imagine what's going on, imagine what the audience might be giving you. Anyway, never mind thinking about what we can't do. Let's see what we did do. And so now I'm going to deliver my report on the 10 pieces that I saw. That was a drum roll. I hope you're impressed. So, starting with Blenheim. Blenheim, going first, always very difficult in a slam because the crowd is going to be a little bit cold. Luckily, the crowd was me, and I know about that sort of thing. So, I thought this was, and unfortunately, you'd have a draw, so it would be a random order, but Blenheim begins with B, so you were sort of fated from the beginning, really. Anyway, I thought this was a really interesting take on doing a poem. I loved the, I think it was the first or second line, which was slip beneath the pillow spell. I thought that was a great line. And you had some super images in the poem, which you were juxtaposing with the words. And I thought that worked best when the images didn't exactly illustrate what you were saying, but in fact were just a little bit different. So they were adding another layer, another nuance to the piece, rather than just being a picture of what you were saying. So that was really good. And I also liked the ending of this one. I liked the beginning and the ending of a lot of pieces, but this one really made me sort of go, oh, which was the angel sleeping on your shoulder when the devil is near. Lovely to leave a piece with a little bit of a thought that can go out of it. So great stuff, well done. Next we had Charwell, and this was a very brave piece. It was called Visions of Space, and it was again had a really good first line, which made me think, which was, she says, looking at her notes, not very subtly, but the good first line, which was empty but full. And I really thought about that a lot. I thought that was a great way of conjuring up a vision of space. And I liked where this went. This went on quite a sort of surreal journey into, it felt to me like you were trying to tell me what would be like if we went into space, if we left the kind of mess that we've made here. And so I thought, what a brave idea, really great. And I think you decided to just perform to the camera, which is brilliant. And I think you could have just helped yourself by looking at the camera a bit more often. It's really difficult when you don't know the words. And there was somebody else who did something very sneaky, very clever, and I only know it because I've done the same thing, which is they obviously had the piece of paper just below the camera or just to the side, and they would just glance and then they would come back. Because you've got to imagine where that little green light is on your phone, if you've got that sort of phone, or, where the camera is, that you're talking to somebody. That is a person. I know it doesn't look like one, but we need to, performance poetry is not just about poetry, but it's also about the performance and how you engage with both the words and the people and your audience. So maybe just a little thing to think about for next time. But yes, a really brave idea and great imagination to just go into a big space called space. All right, next we have Cranmer, and this was a great piece because you'd obviously taken so much time. You'd really drilled down into the details, and it was a great example of a word I find really difficult to say, which is you knew that was going to happen. Specificity. Okay, I have said that word so many times in my life to people, and today it's gone. But you know what I mean. Be specific. But then you weren't just specific about your details. There were sort of details about the details. There was a particularly lovely bit about dew, and how it was cold, but you still really, even though it made your feet wet, it sort of brought you alive. And I loved that you didn't just go, oh, I've got wet feet, but you sort of went another level down into that image. That sort of detail brings a poem alive, and it makes it sort of draws the reader in when you use details which are connected to our senses, so smell, sight, touch. And I thought this was an excellent example of that one. Yeah. So, and next, even load. This was the sort of apocalyptic one, with sort of apocalyptic Didcot power station as its picture. Now, I love this. There was some really quirky language in this one, and let's see, we had the mounds of ash, and there were towers built from the bones of innocent creatures. I think that was the line. I just thought, oh, there's some really interesting language in that, which was great. Plastic grows like weeds. That was a superb image, because I instantly saw plastic wrappers, and then the masks that we're all having to wear, the sort of paper ones that you see them discarded everywhere, and that's exactly what they look like. Plastic looks like weeds. Super, really, really good idea. I think now there was something interesting in this piece, is that you had voices in the background. Now, either this was planned, in which case very clever, because it added a sort of eerie quality to the back of your piece, or it was just a mistake. Doesn't matter. That's what we call, in the creative industries, we call that a happy accident, which is something happens in the moment and it changes a piece a bit, and you just say, actually, that really works, we'll keep it in. So whichever it was, if you planned it, great. If it was an accident and you left it in, also great. All right, she says, turning over her page of notes. I made a lot of notes, and note to self, must make them in better handwriting next time. Right, so next we had Ford. Another great opening line. Split seconds between the proper seconds. Oh my goodness. Very, just instantly drawn into the poem. Also, really lovely, precise language about different experiences. The fingers on the frozen pane of glass. Good, can't read my own writing, but you know your line. Oh, the mysterious fog that came around it. That was beautiful. And I thought, I loved the setting with the tree behind you, with the wind going through it. That added a beautiful atmosphere to the piece. Your performance was very good. You really paced it well. The only thing I'd have a quibble with was the music, because I don't think you needed it. I think your words were great. I think your setting was great. I thought your performance was great. I mean, I really liked that you stopped the music. It made there was a little emphasis from where it stopped, but actually trust your words, because your words are good. All right. Again, somebody else might have enjoyed that, so having the music as well. So you don't have to take what I say as gospel, except I am in charge just for a few minutes right now. Okay, so that was Ford. Next we had Isis. And what I really liked your book ending of this one. So you had the new year, new me, and that made me think about all those sort of self-helpy diaries you get, and all those New Year's resolutions that we make, and how, you know, anyone who had any grand plans this year, me included, those have completely gone up in everything. And so I thought that was a really good thing to choose, and the way you looped the poem back round to that made it very satisfying. You also cut really well from image to image, and that's a good poetic skill because it allows the listener a little bit of room in there. If you're not explaining everything, you're just giving them a picture and another picture and another picture. And you also had a great sense of rhythm. When you write in blank verse, it shouldn't just be chopped up sentences. All right. Sometimes we try and get away with that. But it doesn't really work as a poem. You want to feel that there's a sort of internal rhythm to it, even if you're not in a set form like iambic pentameter, which is, you know, da 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 da. Okay, that is a brilliant poetic form, obviously used by Shakespeare. He knew a thing or two. But you can, yours had an internal rhythm to it, and that made it really pleasing to listen to. Would have been even more pleasing to listen to if you paid a little bit of attention to the volume or where you recorded it, because it was very echoey, and so that made it a little bit difficult to hear. And it's always worth thinking about whether you're live or you're filming yourself, is look back and see, what did that sound like? What did it look like? Because again, with a couple of the other pieces, they had fantastic backgrounds. Even if they were just standing or sitting there in a library or a chair, there was sort of interest around them. If you've got a blank wall and it's very echoey, it's just not visually as interesting. So when you go and you're amazing performance poets later in your life, and you go to do a show and you see what the background is like and it's quite boring, just see, that's when you'd go and talk to the tech person and say, could we put a filter on the light, or can I take a chair or something on stage just to make it a little bit more interesting? Sorry, I seem to have gone on a bit in your slot, which isn't fair, because there are other people who that feedback is relevant to as well. But because you had this beautiful rhythm and these really nice images, I was like, oh, I wish I could have just heard that, not strained to hear it. Latimer, now, love it. Love the fact that you looked at the idea of vision and thought, that doesn't just have to be your eyes. No, of course, you can observe with all different parts of your anatomy. And I loved what you did with the blindfold, and then you took us into this sensory experience. And what was beautiful was particularly your attention to the sense of smell. Now, let me tell you something. If you want a poem to stick in people's minds, put a smell in it. There's something so evocative about scent. For instance, if I walk into a leather shop or a shoe shop and I just smell proper leather, I'm instantly back to when I was riding ponies when I was a kid. I don't even have to think about it. It's straight where my brain goes. And you had some beautiful smells. I particularly loved the fresh air that smelled of cucumber. Oh yes, what a great description. Yes, that's exactly what it smells like. But I've never heard it before, so kudos to you. There were also sort of damp dogs and barbecue and all that kind of crowded into this image, which was just lovely. Only thing I'd say, you didn't need the explanation at the beginning. I understand why you did it, and maybe some people would like that there, but as soon as you put that blindfold on and we knew it was called Blindfolded, like, you didn't need it. It was such a good piece. It's always tempting as a poet to want to explain things. And in fact, in my poetry group, we have a rule that you probably always need to knock the last 2 lines off a poem, because we always have this desire, like, did people get it? Should we explain it? No. In a way, you want to leave it a little bit open so people aren't quite sure. So they think about it, so they start to engage in it, and you're not just telling them. I sound like I'm making more of a meal of something that I actually thought it's just a minor point, like maybe 1 line of explanation, not such a long one, but only because the poem was really good and it did all that work itself. Okay, so after Latimer, we had Oxen. This was a great performance. I was interested. I mean, you weren't the only people who did it, that somebody else wrote the poem and then another person performed it. But what you really did was gave the poem space. Finding the rhythm of a piece and allowing each line to breathe, but not dragging it out like it's very important, is basically very important. Your pacing was beautiful. And I really felt that you inhabited that poem. You really felt each word that you were saying. And I'm a performance poet who likes to put a lot of the performance into it, sometimes totally over the top, which is totally valid as well. But sometimes too much performance detracts from a piece, and you trod that really fine line between putting a lot of emotion, quite a lot of action, just although you weren't moving, there was physicality in that poem, but you never went melodramatic. So kudos to you. That was a super performance. And also a great idea. I loved the split screen thing with the colour and the black and white, sort of showing the internal conflict. That was great. It was a good idea. And yet, again, not overstated, not sort of rammed in our face. It just suggested, oh, here's another point of view, which I really liked. Yes, good. Now I'm turning the page. Okay, last 2. So, Ridley. Beautiful first line. Hope is a magic word deep in a person's heart. I've actually missed out a line there because I liked it just like that. There was so much sweetness in this piece, and I don't mean that in a sort of like, oh, I've eaten too many Percy pigs kind of sweetness. I mean a sort of tenderness and gentleness in this piece, which was really lovely. It was a great contrast to, some of the other pieces which were feeling sort of the magnitude of what we're going through. I thought you really held that this is a difficult situation, but the way we get through it is to have hope. And I thought that was lovely. It was like a sort of little breath of fresh air. And I think, and you did really good camera work. You did what I said to somebody earlier. I could see that you had the poem, and I only know this because I've done it myself, and just a little look down, but then you connected in with the audience really well, and that made it a really enjoyable piece to listen to. And yes, and then we have Windrush. Whoa, this was such an original idea. I love this metaphor of the eggs in the basket, in the nest, sorry, contrasted with the maths test or being in the maths classroom, and holding that sense of, the things we sort of are committed to do, or the logic of maths, and then the freedom and the sort of naturalness of these birds, these fledglings becoming growing up, but also it sort of had the logic of nature, and the beauty of maths was sort of because you had the equations in the background. Yes, very good use of background in that one. And I thought it was quirky, I thought it was original, and and a beautiful metaphor that you saw all the way through the poem, which was great. You stayed with it. You just kept exploring that journey of the fledglings from their being an egg into growing up. Fantastic. All right, so now I think it's time for me to announce results. This is a lot of talking, and I'm probably supposed to have done it shorter, but never mind. Drum roll again. Okay, so in third place. Oh, I'll just let you know how I judged it. Ha ha, you thought you were going to get the results, and I'm just going to make you wait a bit longer. So I judged this on a combination of the quality of the performance and the quality of the writing. As I probably said at the beginning, I meant to, and I may have forgotten, it's not necessarily that the performance had to be something big and flash. It's more about the connection that you created with the audience. So that's what it was judged on. So it's a kind of mixture of both. So in third place, we have Windrush. Yay! Okay, good. In second place, Oxen. Woohoo! And in first place, it's Ford. Very well done, everybody, though. It was tough. I know judges always say that, but honestly, it's true, because there were really great qualities to all of the poems. So, happy writing, keep going, keep experimenting with new forms, and I hope that before too long, I'll be able to come and visit you in school. Bye for now.